Welcome Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Ava Atlas, born with enhanced bone and muscle density, has trained her entire life to protect the world as a veritable pulp superwoman. A sinister mastermind, shrouded in myth, rises from the shadows, along with his faceless fanatics, to threaten everything she holds dear. Aided by an occult investigator who defeated the villain once before, using a mysterious pocket watch powered by blood. Ava must uncover dark designs before a clawed hand grips the globe. In the world's first ever Pulp Heroines magazine.
And good evening, everybody. And if you're not hyped to get out there and back Heroine Adventure magazine after that, well, then just click the link below in the description and read through it further, because there was something wrong with you that it didn't hit the first time. Watch it a second time over there, because it is this is going to be the next hot hyped thing. I'm a big fan of the pulp era heroes. Notice I said heroes because there weren't really a whole lot of heroines, which is the twist that our guest tonight is putting on there. And welcome to the show, Mr. Wyatt Holliday. Wyatt, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself, man?
You know, I'm doing all right. I think, you know, had a good dinner. It's payday, so I went out.
There you go.
Went out and treated myself to something hot right before the show. Didn't necessarily say good, but at least it was hot.
Yeah.
So yeah. What? How are things going with you, man? You've been busy with Ardana. You've been busy with the Eternal Armor. Couldn't get the words out there.
Yeah, man.
You're a machine lately.
Yeah, busy, man, keeping at it. This is stream 3 of the day. And I'm just going, man. Getting it out there, dude. You know, it's funny. I made that trailer and I still love watching it. So
you did a great job on it.
I didn't do the voiceover, but I did the rest, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Adrenaline's keeping me going.
So this is 128 pages. This is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's not all comic book though, is it? I mean, some of it's prose, right?
Oh yeah. It's majority prose. Yeah.
Oh, it's majority prose. Okay, so we're going right back to the.
We're going right back to exactly like.
Oh man.
This is a November 1938 issue of The Shadow.
Yeah, it feels all crinkly, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, man. It's man. It's probably my least valuable one, but it's the one I take out and throw around and show off.
I've got an amazing Wonder Stories somewhere at home. I keep it because it's got a Ray Bradbury story on the cover. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
Nice. Yeah. I've been collecting a long time, so been a fan since I was about 15. We'll probably get into that, but yeah.
I say that answers the question of why you chose to go into the pulp style of storytelling here. So you were collecting what? Any specific pulp, or is it just like when you see a thick fat magazine from the 40s, you got to grab it?
Well, it started out. My LCS had a small, I guess it would be what you'd call an end cap nowadays, but they did have some pulp magazines there. They were old then, as too, of course. But even though 15 was a long time ago, and they had some of the Shadow, which I did recognize from, especially the Alec Baldwin movie was pretty recent at the time. But there was an issue of Doc Savage that really grabbed my eye, so I picked that up. It was actually number 36, Resurrection Day, which is the story in which Doc Savage attempts to resurrect the mummy of Solomon, and things go horribly wrong. But
what could possibly go wrong resurrecting the dead?
Yeah,
it's always a picnic.
And since then, man, I just got into them. Of course, once I became a fan of, I was a fan of Conan before that, but I had never read any of the Weird Tales or any of those. So, always been a fan of John Carter, those sort of stories, Tarzan, of course. So it was really cool to start going back and picking up some of those and starting to collect. And I'm a big Doc Savage fan.
Without Doc Savage, and especially without Doc Savage and John Carter, there'd be no Superman. You wouldn't have.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, John Carter is a strange visitor from another planet who can leap tall buildings in a single bound. Just happens to be from Earth to Mars. Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, has
Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah. First name's Clark. You had to look up and away to the 88th floor of the Empire State Building to see where he sat. Yeah, it all was coming together there, influencing the teenagers of the day that sat down and created Superman and the entire Western comics industry, really.
Yeah. Fortress of Solitude is kind of like the Holy Grail too. That's number 68. And so I don't have a copy yet. I've been looking for a high grade copy. I'll get one eventually, but
get to it.
Yeah, right.
Somebody find Wyatt a Doc Savage 68 in decent condition, and try to trade it for one of these.
Yeah, find it and I'll probably buy it. So
there was a discussion we were having. Someone was bringing it up on Twitter earlier today. Matt Krotz started it, the guy who was with the Kyrie, and basically asking what pulp was, why it was called pulp, and all that. And it was the paper, wasn't it? I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It was cheap to print.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that actually. The first they did make magazines with the stories, as we would know the pulps before they changed to the pulp paper. But the October 1896 issue of Argosy was the first one to have the pulp paper. Frank Munsey was cutting some costs, trying to make a little extra money, and he downgraded the paper to the pulpwood paper, and then, other people started replicating the idea, and that's what it became. It
was super cheap to print on. It was, and if it was cheap to print on, it was cheap to sell. So the stories could get to the mass audiences. That might not be buying, a nice copy of The Strand or something that's printed on higher quality paper, which would be reserved for the more literary efforts. So you got you got the popcorn flick stuff in the pulp format.
Yep. It's very much your popcorn movie type of book. Like Mickey Spillane said, that he said the big shot literary writers could never stomach the fact that people buy more salted peanuts than they do caviar. Yes. And so I always thought that was a good quote.
I think he's also the one who told somebody he wasn't an author, he was a writer.
He was also the most sold paperback author at one time. So
he good stuff, and it's going to be refreshing to get some stories back in that vein of. It was I want to say more innocent time, but you know what? It wasn't.
Right.
I'm listening to a lot of radio programming lately from the same era as these pulp magazines, so the late 40s, early 50s. And I'm kind of like driving out the road sometimes at the stuff that they're bringing up as the criminal element was pulling off in those. I'm like, really, this is not the stuff I saw on television growing up as a child, where it was like, it's Rum Runners or something like that. They were really getting into the nitty gritty of human depravity and what villains could do. So, and of course the pulps were more famous for how lurid they might get, especially with those covers on the detective pulps.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. A lot of the sci-fi ones from the 50s as well. When you get to the 50s, had some really nice covers.
Always a giant robot with a woman whose dress was just ripped enough to where you could see everything through it, but not so much that you saw everything through it.
Yep.
They knew where to draw the line. Now, the pulps of the day, though, I mean, I keep starting to say something and then correcting myself because there's so much stuff in there. There was like Sheena, the Jungle Girl, and stuff like that, but there wasn't really a whole lot in the science fantasy realm that was female-centric. It was, the Shadow, Doc Savage, like you've got here, the Spider, who really wasn't science. Operator Number 5, I have not remembered that one for years.
Operator Number 5 is awesome. The Purple Invasion storyline is incredible. It takes place over, it's either 12 or 16 magazines is how long the storyline lasts. And it begins with America being invaded and part of the Eastern Seaboard being taken over. And now they're fighting to get it back and keep the rest from being taken over. It's great storyline.
Stuff, if Hollywood's really looking to mine previously done stuff for new movies, they should go back further than the last Harry Potter film.
Yeah.
Because there's good stuff out there to be done. One of my favorites that they printed, they would turn them into radio plays. Sometimes they would take them from the pulps and put them on radio. If I Was a Mocklin was like a science fiction story they did, and it was just great to read them and then hear them on the radio and say, oh yeah, I remember reading this story when I was picking up these short story compilations.
Yeah, the Shadow was actually a radio character first. It was actually kind of like to equate to modern day, like what Elvira or Svengoolie would be hosting a horror movie show. Except he was hosting a detective mystery show, and Orson Welles did the voice, of course. So, people started writing or whatever, calling or writing in, asking, we want to know more about this guy, the Shadow. So, and that's where it was born. The following year in 1931, they began producing the magazines.
They started giving him the adventure instead of just the hosting spot.
Yeah.
They had several like that. There was like the Whistler was at the same time, and he was just a host that would I almost break into the Shadow every time I hear a Whistler episode come on. It's like, I am the Whistler, and I know, and I'm like, what evil lurks in the hearts of men. He's like, no, and I know many things, for I walk by night. Like, oh, that didn't catch on. But there weren't very many female characters in the center of that. So what led you to go with Ava Atlas as your main character in this, other than the fact that we know what's going to sell to people today?
Primarily that, like what you were just touching on. As I went through the years collecting and reading, I started to wonder where are the I'm sure it was time period related. There were plenty of female characters in the romance pulps there because there were plenty of those. Things like that. But, there was only one issue. There's actually only one issue of Sheena. Otherwise, she appeared in a couple of stories in Jungle Stories magazine. And of course, the comics were coming out at the time, but that doesn't really count. And then otherwise, you might have had Domino Lady, might be the other well-known one, who was in, a couple of anthology series and like Spicy Romance and stuff like that.
And then there was like
but as far as having a dedicated magazine, like what they call hero pulps, where the magazine is dedicated to a specific hero and not necessarily an anthology of different characters, there weren't any. And so, that always kind of made me a little sad because if you know me from the comics I create, I do dig the female heroes. That's I'm into that. So
Yeah.
so that kind of bummed me out a little bit. So over the years I started thinking that, well, maybe I should just create one. And say if anyone's going to do it, it might as well be me, right?
That's
So
what's driving so much of this crowdfunding effort. We're not signing what we like, so we're making it.
yeah,
Or you're
yeah,
making it. I'm making nothing.
yeah, well, you're part of we. But I just exactly. I couldn't find what I wanted, so I just decided I'd make it.
So then tell us how you came up. Well, not how you came up with. You sat down and you thought about it. What went into the creation of Ava Atlas and who she is?
Well, I wanted to keep things very. First of all, I kind of had to figure out my time period. Did I want to do more 30s type adventure or more 40s, whatnot? Did I want to go a little more sci-fi into the 50s? But I kind of want the book actually we actually start in 1948 is where we're beginning, which is the same year The Shadow and Doc Savage stopped being published. So I kind of wanted to pick up timeline wise where they stopped, and I thought that would be a cool starting point. And I didn't really want to do anything during World War II.
Been done to death.
That's just done a lot, and I didn't really want to go back there. So I thought post-war would be pretty cool. We're gonna have, that way I can tie in a lot of things that from World War II, and maybe dig up some or create some crazy inventions that might have been undiscovered in this world during World War II and whatnot. So after I figured out my time period, I wanted to do something a lot like the hero pulps were, in that it's a precursor to comic book superheroes as we know. So I definitely wanted to go that route with a little bit of super science as they had in a lot of the pulps, particularly things like Doc Savage and some of the others.
Yeah.
So
Doc Savage would lobotomize your ass.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would. So I wanted to be able to do a pretty straight adventure story. And I don't know. She just kind of, was kind of the character that I had a few characters in mind. And then she was just kind of the one that stood at the forefront in my mind. I knew what I wanted her to look like. Even though my art's not great, I designed her myself, just like I do all my characters. And then a good artist makes it look good. And
it's got a very Atomic Age look to it, and a very pulp action kind of look to it. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say she's probably not like a superhero, like in your traditional sense, with as far as powers go or anything, but more Doc Savage is like, and Doc Savage, for all you young kids out there, for all you youngsters who don't know Doc Savage, think MacGyver with more charisma, and people following him, and he's the one in charge. He knows everything, and he's inventing stuff all the time. And when he invents something, he wants to test it out on bad guys.
Yep. He's an inventor. He's a scientist. He's physically trained about like Batman. He's a martial artist. He's a detective as good as Sherlock Holmes. He can pretty much do everything. She's not quite like that. Yeah, her parents were. I did want to add a little bit of sci-fi element to her origin. She is rather super, but more in the way of Lou Ferrigno Hulk TV show or Linda Carter Wonder Woman. In that, she can pull some doors off the hinges or probably pick up the back of a car, but she's not throwing tanks or flying through the air or anything like that. So very low powered super. but still very high for the world she lives in.
And what is, I'm seeing volcanoes here. I'm seeing, it looks like an alien landscape on the cover, but I'm guessing that's probably just somewhere else on Earth.
Yeah, that's
okay.
It's just the color. It's just the cool coloring.
So who's the claw guy? That is, because I don't know if this is
yeah,
it reads like an anthology of books.
No, this is our villain. Yeah, I'll show you how all this ties in. It's gonna be fun. This is our villain, the Sleeping Dragon, is what he's called. He's a criminal mastermind, kind of in the vein of someone like Fu Manchu to a degree. He's also a sorcerer. Yeah, he's also a sorcerer. And that gold arm that he has with the claw is actually the sleeve off an ancient Chinese hero's mystical armor. And all he has is the sleeve from the armor. But he's been able to twist it to further empower his sorcery abilities and so on and so forth. And yeah, he's our villain. He's dangerous. He leads a group of faceless fanatics called the Unseen Guard. They don't even know who each other are. It could be your neighbor, could be your uncle, could be your governor. And they're assembled from all around the world. And this person beside him here is his daughter. We'll get down to her, but she's training under her father as well, learning his secrets and abilities, and to eventually be able to take over either when he's gone or in his absence.
Okay. Now you got, I like the tiers on this, by the way. You've kept this thing super simple.
I did.
It's like, here's the treasure trove. Now this is like, get everything. Your bookmark, your Adventure Society member card. Well, who wouldn't want that? Man, that takes me back. I actually had, and I'm freaking 19 years old in college. I had one of those Avengers identification cards that came to the con. Okay, but I worked at my college. I worked in student services, making student IDs. So I took it, I shot my picture, I X-Acto knives around the A, I slid my picture in it, I put a magnetic stripe on the back, and I laminated that son of a bitch. I had an Avengers identification card with my picture on it. I'm that big of a geek. Eventually, but I had it for decades.
Nice. Yeah. Well, when we get toward the bottom of the page, there's larger images of all this stuff. But yeah, I kind of got the idea from. I'm also a big fan of Captain Marvel, the real Captain Marvel, Shazam.
Absolutely.
And so back in the golden age, they would have like the card that like you were a member of the Captain Marvel club or whatever, and so kind of inspired by that. I thought it would be a fun extra to have on there. So
yeah, and you got the prints, the trading cards. You're gonna have a TypeScript page. We'll see that down below too, and a collector's case. So you're gonna have that like magnetic clasp or just oh, you are going magnet. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But other than that big pot, it's like, you want the books? Do you want the books, or do you want the books?
Yeah. Do you want one cover? Do you want the other? Or do you want them both?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do like the second cover here where you've distressed it to look like an older pulp. I'm halfway tempted to think, did he actually print it on newsprint?
No, it's just designed to look that way. It's faded. It's got the cracks and the scuffs and the creases in it, and all that's just part of the design. And so yeah, no, it'll be in perfect condition. It just looks half the time I call it the beat up cover, but so it looks, it's just made to look beat up. Like
the art's that way.
like if you had actually had it for that long. So
I want to get one of those, and I just want to slowly go through each page and soak it in coffee.
Yes.
Just make the page feel a little bit stiffer and look a little bit more brown. I think that would be that'd be an art project, though, and I would totally ruin the value of the book. But I don't care; it's cool.
Yeah.
Now, before I start digging down into the artwork here, I know there's 4 characters that are referenced here. You talk about the Sleeping Dragon and Ava Atlas. You've also got Inspector Sin, and the way I'm looking at the books and the way I'm reading it, that sounds like a separate adventure rather than a character in this adventure. Am I wrong, right, or is it kind of both?
It is both. He is also in this adventure, and the book that everyone gets, every perk comes with it, is that one with the face of the pocket watch on it, that little black book. That is, it's an Inspector Sin novella, which takes place before the story in the magazine, and it's the story of how he originally came to possess the pocket watch.
You know, if ever there was a thing that you didn't have in the case that needed to be made, you need to get 3D prints of that pocket watch.
People keep saying that, man, and it was an idea that I considered, man. It will probably happen in the future. Yeah, Inspector Sin will almost certainly return.
Ryan wins in the chat, and he's saying what I was thinking too when I was first putting this stream together and working on the card. The logo, it's elegant in its simplicity. I mean, you just got the 2 vanishing point perspectives intersecting with each other, and they're just on the same angle. It's great looking, and it looks exactly like something you would have seen in the 1950s as a logo.
Thank you. Yeah, I went through, I can't really call it painstaking, but I went through great lengths to try to make sure everything about this would emulate or replicate, whatever word you would want to use, the true actual pulp magazines of the time, from the logo to the art to the character designs to the story itself. I'm such a fan, and this is something I've wanted to do for a long, long time. So,
yeah, when you were writing it, did you find yourself referring back to the older pulps for language and cadence?
Not so much. Sometimes I would read, a little before I went to bed, during the night, just to keep things fresh in my mind, but otherwise, I've read a lot, man. I've read a lot of pulps, so I'm, certain, everything, from Raymond Chandler to Robert E. Howard. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar. There are things that I do like to read. Just to keep it in my mind when I'm working on a project in a similar vein. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll read something from a certain author or period to get voice established in my head before I sit down and write. My first book was supposed to have been written in the late 1800s, and I was running it past other. I'm just anal about that kind of stuff, though.
Oh yeah.
Well, you used this word here. I'm like, yeah. It's like that word didn't exist then. It's like, oh, well, what would they have said? So I'll just
you got to know things like what year did they first have radios in cars and things like that. Yeah, you got to know that stuff when you're writing something in the past.
Well, unless you want to go full Dick Tracy on it, and she gets in her car and opens up the dashboard and turns on a radio, and the passenger says, "What? You've got a radio in your car?" Because then they could be like trendsetters, like Dick Tracy with his video wristwatch. Ooh, that was
Well, Doc Savage invented the automatic transmission, night vision goggles,
yes,
and the answering machine, and a few other things that were in the stories before they were ever in real life. So
that's the point of good fiction. It inspires people to say, "Why don't we have that? That would be a cool thing. Let's make that." Hey, Fizz Chozo in the chat. How you doing, man? I'm working on your write-up. Fizz Chozo is going to launch an Indiegogo real soon here called Goofanoid, and it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a superhero clown or vigilante clown in a horror world setting. So
that sounds cool.
He's got a cool character design, and we're just trying to help him get things launched and put the the elevator pitch together. We got to get the elevator pitch put together.
Right.
So tell me about Inspector Sin, because I know he's he's almost as important to this book launch as is Ava.
Yeah. Inspector Sin, he was a parent. If we're pretending he had his own series of magazines or appeared in a series, it would have been the 1930s. So a good 10 years before we're starting here. But he was a paranormal investigator, delving into the occult, those sort of things. His stories would have been like paranormal mystery type stories. But his last
Golden Age hero to her Silver Age hero.
Correct. His last adventure would have been the one where he encountered the sleeping dragon. Because this will be why the sleeping dragon is in prison here, as we see on the artwork there on the screen. This is actually from chapter 1, and so he has encountered the sleeping dragon before. That would have been his last adventure before he retired. But once the sleeping dragon reemerges, Inspector Sin kind of feels obligated to come out of retirement and see what he can do to help stop this mastermind one more time.
Does he know when he's broken out, like a disturbance in the force, since he's this occult kind of character?
Well, they'll know pretty quickly. I can't give any spoilers, but they'll know pretty quickly. Well, Inspector Sin, the trailer does mention his pocket watch, which I've said is on the cover of the novella that comes with the magazine for all backers. This pocket watch, the face on it, that is the face of a Chinese demon, of an ancient Chinese demon. And what you have to do is, it's right there. You pierce your thumb or your finger with the teeth on the front of it there, and you have to drip blood into the mouth, and that's the only way to get it to open. And when it opens, it only stays open for a minute, but it'll show the user an event that happened in the past, something that's going to happen in the future, or something happening far away right now. And it does.
You don't
take
need to 3D print that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's a problem. But it does take a toll on the user, so you can't just whip it out every 5 minutes and use it for frivolous things. So, but that's what this book that comes with it is. It's Inspector Sin and the Second Hand of Shadows, and it is the story of how he originally obtained the watch.
And this one ends with him putting the sleeping dragon in prison.
No, the sleeping dragon actually isn't involved in that story.
Oh, okay.
But so it's a separate. It's almost like a prequel, but it would have been before he met the sleeping dragon, because all those details will be recounted in the magazine. So like you'll find out all about their first meeting, and how it went and all that. So I didn't really feel like I needed to repeat it. So. So I thought it'd be a cool separate story that, how did he get the watch? Where did it come from? Who had it before him? And so on.
So you got 2 heroes, 2 villains, 3 Chinese, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And Ava, who is born to expatriate parents. So we don't know yet at this point what country her parents came from or what country they expatriated to know where Ava's living and grew up.
Her parents were chemical biologists. They worked in Germany. Her father was German. Her mother was Italian, actually. And they met through their work together. She was working in she was working in Germany as well, and that's how they met and eventually got married and all that good stuff. But of course, this is during the 1930s in Germany, and people are trying to muscle in on their work and trying to steal their research and all this throughout the times. And what they're trying to do is trying to figure out a way to, pretty basic in that help the human body heal faster, recover quicker from injuries, maybe slow the aging process, things like that. And then when President von Hindenburg dies, that's when they decide, okay, it's probably time to get out of here before things get really bad. So they come to the United States. As a result of their research, which, without giving spoilers, will be revealed in the magazine, Ava was born with increased bone and muscle density. So that's why her abilities are what they are.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, she's stronger than a normal person, faster, a little more durable, but she's not bulletproof or throwing airplanes. So
it's a slightly similar origin, and only barely slightly similar to Philip Wiley's Gladiator.
Yeah, Gladiator's fantastic.
Yeah. But, his dad was kind of a nut, and he injected the baby, when he was, there wasn't none of this in vitro stuff. However they made Ava is completely different. Plus, two loving parents, I would think, and they did this together. Nothing sneaky going on.
Gladiator's awesome. I was talking about that on my stream the other night. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the only pulp here. Well, not the only. Why do I keep doing this? I keep starting saying he's the only or it's the only, and then every time I do that, multiple exceptions pop up in my head. But Philip Wiley's Gladiator is canonically a DC character and a Marvel character, because Marvel did Man God in that Marvel premiere, which was just retelling the Gladiator story, and DC just flat out said, "Yeah, he's the father of Arn Munro, who was in the Young All Stars."
Right.
And they again adapted the whole story. So
Marvel decided. Marvel made Fu Manchu Shang-Chi's father.
And now they can't call him by his name anymore.
Yeah, now they can't use him anymore. Yeah, right. At least not in the traditional sense.
When is that copyright ever going to free up? I mean, I don't even know why it's held up. Nobody's doing anything with Fu Manchu.
It's got something to do with the estate, man. Because I don't know if it could very well be trademarked.
Yeah, it's
which never expires. So it's kind of that's the reason Tarzan is the way it is. Like even if the stories go public domain, Tarzan is still a trademark. So that has nothing to do with copyright. So you can't go slap
you can write a
Tarzan
story.
You can reprint a public domain Tarzan story, but you probably shouldn't write your own and slap Tarzan on it without licensing it.
Yeah, you can't call it you can't call him Tarzan, but you can use all the elements of the story that were published up to whatever date public domain begins. So you can write a new story. You just can't put. I think you can even call him Tarzan in the book, but I'd have to research that with somebody who knows better. But you couldn't put it on the cover.
That's correct. I think that's correct, but you can't sell it as Tarzan. But I think you're correct about that. Because I have a reprint book of the Sheena stories from the Jungle Stories and those other various. And Sheena's the same way. It's a trademarked character. Somebody owns the mark, and so they have to publish this as something like the Complete Tales of the Jungle Queen. And she still calls Sheena in it. It's exact reprint of the stories. So
Fizz Chozo. Fizz, you got a hard name to say, son. Fizz Chozo, I disagree with you completely here that nobody wants to use Fu Manchu. I think if he was a usable character, well, Marvel did use him. They want to continue using.
I don't think anybody. I think people would want to use him. For sure.
Yeah. He would have been in the Shang-Chi movie for certain. I know that Alan Moore wanted to use him in Extraordinary Gentleman and had to change the name of the character because they couldn't. They're like, but it's this old. But no, it's held up. So he became the Limehouse Doctor.
Yep. So
there's interest in the character. The very intriguing villain.
Yeah, I've read all the books. I've seen all the movies. Yeah, I'm a big Fu Manchu fan as well.
Now, did he have a nemesis? I want to say who was there a standard hero, a repeating hero, or was it just like always a different force of good?
It was a Scotland Yard detective named Nayland Smith.
Okay.
Who of course all the Fu Manchu books are titled after the villain, but Nayland Smith is technically your protagonist trying to stop and solve Fu Manchu's mysteries and such.
Yeah. Okay, Fizz. I'll agree with you there. Yes, that's definitely the case. We can't have we can't have the Yellow Peril be brought back from the shadow of history.
What's so goofy about that too is, I mean, yeah, they because he's Chinese. No, he's cool as fuck, and that's what I think about Fu Manchu. He's an awesome villain, and if you can't get past the fact that you're insulted because he's Chinese, then that's a problem with you. Because
there's
you
Chinese
don't really know
bad people too.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks of the Fu Manchu mustache, but I'm like, I remember the nails. Those fingernails creeped me out.
Yeah, man.
And weren't they poison tipped?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a big fan. SJWs won't touch Fu Manchu, which is probably good.
Or they make him a hero.
Or that.
They'd put out a movie that would start with his childhood and show how he was in a sympathetic light, show how he was pushed into becoming what he had to become.
Then he become friends with LeBron James. And
yes. Much the way that we have to forgive Cruella for wanting to kill puppies later in life and make a coat out of them.
These people, man.
But that's my soapbox.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, dude.
So you do have artwork here, but like you said, this is not a comic book. This is an illustrated pulp novel.
Correct.
So each of these things we're seeing here, I'm guessing, is this like a full page illo?
All the artwork. Yeah. Well, there may be multiples of each chapter, but they will be full page. They do correlate to the events in the specific chapter. Like I say, it's very much like this, let
me give you big screen.
Okay.
Big screen.
You've got your story.
Oh yeah. The typesetting in those days, that's why you had manual typesetters.
Yeah. And that art.
That's going around the picture.
Mm-hmm. So, very much similar to this, in a lot of ways, except, like I say, shit.
He gave us full block of text.
Yeah, except my ours will be full pages of artwork, and a lot more than these typically have in them, because they only usually have a few, 5 or 6 maybe per story. I wanted to make it a little more art intensive. Because it's fun, and I love that style art. I even wanted the art to kind of, it's that almost pencil, that grayscale look. I wanted the art to even emulate the style and the look of the classics. So,
and you've achieved it. Who is your artist on this? I haven't scrolled down far enough to see.
It's actually Joaquin Zapata, same guy that's the artist for Eternal Armor.
Okay. This is a departure of the style for him, because the last one was much more manga.
Yeah, this is the kind of style I knew him as until the day I asked him if he could draw manga style, and then I was like, well, you're the guy I'm looking for my robot book. And so we've been friends a long time. This comes in the Pulp Adventure Trove. This is another book. And it's the Heroine Adventure Guide, and it's going to have the character designs, notes, probably some of my sketches, things like that, as well as every piece of art from the magazine will be reprinted in there. So you almost have an art book with all the artwork in it as well. And so that's a companion piece that is pretty cool.
Does Aquaman know she ran off with his belt?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't know about Aquaman.
Too late now.
Too late now, Aquaman. Yeah, all this will it'll come in the collector's case. Got the magnetic
that is
closure.
A gorgeous collector's case. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, the cover insert will be double-sided, so you can use either the standard cover or the vintage cover if you want it to look weathered instead. And then you got the logo spine, of course.
Comes with both covers A and B.
Yep. Then of course there's the guide and the Inspector Sin book. Double-sided bookmark. There's the Adventure Society membership card we talked about, and then it's got a place to sign your name. Says you'll help Ava Atlas and her allies defeat evil and uphold good and that sort of stuff. And on the back there will be a secret code that you can use to decipher coded messages inside the magazine and future magazines and things like that. Okay. Just a fun little gimmick.
Here's how you've thought of this, I know, but I'm going to say it anyway because we've got still time to kill. And I got this idea from Matt Krotz again. I'm going to have Matt back on the show because apparently he's a huge influence on my thinking today. He's 3D printed a decoder ring for his book. And
has he?
Yeah. So, you get to twist the dials around and it, decodes a message, but he's using it to put coded messages in future campaigns for secret links.
Nice.
So I was thinking that thing there is like you need to put out like coded tweets to the Heroine Adventure Society.
I sure can do that. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And just let them know, says, hey, nobody else knows this, but we're going to launch the next book on this day, and you can get an early bird special if you if you're there and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Decoder ring, of course. Yeah, that was something I thought about. But once again, other than the extra stuff that comes in here, I wanted to keep it kind of simple. As far as my perks go, at least the first time around, I went a little wild with Eternal Armor. I mean, I got a lunchbox and all kinds of stuff there, and I kind of needed something a little easier. Not so crazy.
But you know what? The cool thing is that everything is paper. Everything in here is paper. And as paper, it doesn't acquire a VAT when you ship overseas. So there's no value-added tax. Big discussion going on that lately, too. Is like, people are having to pay these VATs when they get stuff like, that's because you upgraded from getting a book that had none to getting an action figure and a T-shirt and a Hot Wheels car or whatever, and now it's no longer a book. It's something you got to pay tax on.
And you'll get the 4 character art prints as well.
Now these are by Shelby Robertson, who's interpreting the characters.
Slightly above there.
Oh, wait! I'm looking at the cards.
Yeah, the prints are right above.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get those 4 character art prints.
Very nice. I like that they're using the same background.
4 major characters. Yeah, thanks, man. I thought it would be cool to use the logo and the circle there as the background.
Yeah, it's very uniform. It's like they all came to the Heroine Adventure Awards and they just stopped in front of the wall to get their picture taken.
Yeah, come stand in front of this. Yeah, man. And then that's actually the artwork of the first character designs. So that was what the final character designs turned out, and that's actually the artwork from them. And then there is the set of 5 trading cards. Those 4 you see are by Shelby Robertson, and then there's a 5th secret mystery card in the back there with a question mark on it. So it's actually a set of 5 cards, and you'll see what the 5th one is when you get it.
Okay.
And then You don't get the typewriter, but what you do get is So I feel like since it's my third stream today, I kind of feel like a broken record on this one.
I understand.
But my birthday was last month, and my parents, knowing what I like, they got me a legit 1940 Underwood Deluxe. In perfect working condition. It is gorgeous. Everything works. Even the shift lock works. Has a brand new ribbon installed. And what I will be doing is using it to type, to transcribe a typescript page of the story from the magazine. Every page is unique and one of a kind. There's only one page one. There's only one page two, page three, and so on. And I will sign it, and it will go in the collector's box with everything else. And I thought that would be a very unique. Not yet, but that might be how this freaking page right here goes.
I was gonna say, if you have to type up the whole thing and throw away the mistakes, or you know what's even better, don't throw away the mistakes, because they didn't do that. They just backspaced and X'd over it.
Yeah, well, I definitely want it to look good, but yeah, I probably will have a room full of.
But that would look authentic.
Paper. Yeah, that's true.
Heroine Works got a very fun idea here too. Is that maybe if not for a cosplay cover, then maybe some sort of a poster. It wouldn't. It is a very very simple type of action costume to put together. So there's not a lot of ornate. I think the belt buckle would be probably the most designer specific thing about it.
Yeah, it's basically a long sleeve leotard with a high collar. I mean, it's I wanted it to look pretty simple and fitting for the style of story and the time period, and but still look hot at the same time. So and so man, and then the TypeScript page, and then below that I've done some stuff. So there's my previous campaigns.
Yeah, if anybody's worried about what he's been doing, is like, does he know how to put out a comic book or in this case magazine? Yeah, he's been putting out Ardana, which you've done 2 issues of Ardana now, haven't you?
Well, it's technically 1 issue, but it was 2 campaigns. There was issue 0 was my first campaign, but after Rocket Gal, people were like, holy crap, you've done a book before this? And so I re-released a new version of Ardana 0, which was the Legendary Edition. And so, technically 2 Ardana books, but they're both 0. So this is my 5th campaign and then with 3 properties, 4 campaigns prior to this.
All fulfilled, people. So...
Yeah, well, not Eternal Armor yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not Eternal Armor yet. It's still in progress. So, Eternal Armor's still going. We're still working on it. Everything's going nice.
Yeah, and, I'm still kicking myself for not having picked up Rocket Gal when I had the chance. Well, the thing was, I didn't have the chance. I had stuff going on, but oh
well, you can get.
I say next issue comes around, it'll probably be a catch-up tier.
Yeah, there will be. Our remaining copies are on Mandy's website right now.
Oh, that's right.
If you want to go, that's stuntmancomics.com. If you want to go over there and pick up a copy. Yeah, right. Yeah. Mandy will, because Pete and I co-created Rocket Gal, so I write it, Pete draws it, Mandy's the editor. And the first issue was not published under any imprint at all. It just reads, copyright 20, I guess it was 2020 or 2019, whatever the case may have been, published by Wyatt, Holliday, and Peter Gilmore. So what we're doing is from the next issue of Rocket Gal will be published by Stuntman Comics with Mandy, and we might bring her on board to do some more stuff on Rocket Gal. And so now you can pick up the remaining issues over there, and I have them as add-ons on the Eternal Armor campaign as well. But
Okay.
I'll be aware, before we run out. So I'm keeping up with what's what.
Yeah.
I did have my remaining Ardana copies on Eternal Armor as add-ons, but they were gone almost instantly. So I'm completely sold out of any Ardana books at all. So,
Well, obviously, your reputation is carrying your campaigns and propelling your campaigns, rather, because you've only had this thing up for 4 days. You're 598% fulfilled. Now, thing is, I'm sure you needed more than $500 to get this done. So
yeah.
So keep pumping it, folks, because I guarantee you that needs to be about $6,000 to hit a break-even point.
Of course, it's more than $500, but I've done this enough. Our signups looked really good. I had confidence that we're gonna hit what we need. I'm not even concerned. So and I knew we would. So yeah. I don't recommend everybody do that, especially if it's your first campaign. Do not give yourself a $500 funding goal and just hope for the best. I don't recommend that. That's why my first campaign for Ardana was the funding goal was $3,500, and people were like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "No, that's what I need to do." It's that's what I need to do to not be too in the hole. If that's all I hit.
But you've got a network now. You've got an infrastructure in place that you know how the machine's working, and it's well oiled, and you can just keep feeding it. Robert's in the chat looking for the one thing that you didn't do with the Ending of the Tears, and that was digital. Any hope of a PDF of this book in the future?
For this campaign, no. In the future, I will actually say almost certainly. We haven't done it with any comics yet, but I'm leaning a little differently on this. There will be almost certainly a way to get a digital version in the future. Not necessarily right now on this campaign, but
because with it being a novella, pretty much an illustrated an illuminated manuscript, you could actually do that Kindle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there could be an Amazon release of this thing.
Absolutely, there could be.
So it doesn't have to be PDF anymore. It can be and that way it's controlled. I know that PDF is an issue for some people because it's like we'll just give everybody your PDF. You can't give everybody your Kindle. You can loan it, but
right.
But you get paid out. So
who knows where it will go from here, but I do have some plans. I do have some ideas. In time, we will almost certainly be going to a wider market, particularly retail wise. So you can pretty much count on a digital version in some form in the near future. This is something I can produce faster than a comic book project, just for obvious reasons, mainly the artwork, and all the everything involved with that. So because really the lion's share of this work is on me, so I can produce these a little.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, how many illustrations do you slip into the book here? I mean, it's 128 pages. You get an illustration like every 3 pages, every 5 pages. That's still a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do. Yeah, we're shooting for one a chapter, which is going to be about every 5 or 6 pages.
Okay.
So
128 pages, folks. It's only back down. My mouse wheel doesn't want to go down. I scroll down and it goes up. I'm like, that's not the thing I told you to do. $25 for 128 pages and the Inspector Sin novella added on to that. So you're getting 2 books for the $25.
Yeah, we're actually not using cheap pulpwood paper. So it'll also be quality. We're not going to do it like that. I don't want to get that authentic with it. But yeah, it'll be high quality. It's gonna be really nice. And I'm just a stickler for that sort of thing. I'm a very quality intensive guy. So yeah, it'll be really nice.
All right. Well, Wyatt, thank you so much for bringing Heroine Adventures onto the show tonight. Folks in the chat, if you haven't already, click on the link below in the video description here and follow it over to Indiegogo. Check out the tiers yourself. It won't take long. It's a very simple campaign. And then pick the one that's right for you and make sure that, Heroine Adventures is going to be coming to your place in this November. So
November.
You've got it all written, so you're pretty much waiting for art, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, waiting for art. I do the layout myself. I've been, I can do the layout myself.
Yeah.
So,
we'll talk about that in a second.
So I do the layout myself. It's gonna look really nice. So yeah, and then if it does well, which I have no reason to believe it won't, I already know what number 2 is gonna be. So I'll begin moving toward it. And if I were doing this as a traditional publisher, I would probably do it quarterly. So if I can get to where I can do 2, 3, 4 of these a year, then I'll do it as long as people keep wanting them. So
yeah, quarterly would be great. It'd be like a return to the pulp magazine cycle. So
yeah.
All right, folks in the chat, we appreciate you being here. I know you hear the share and like thing. I don't say the like thing because if you don't like me, then you don't have to hit the thumb. But I do ask you to share so that this gets in front of the eyeballs of the people in your social circles, so that Wyatt can reach more people with this. Let your friends decide if they want this kind of thing. Why wouldn't they? They probably like the same thing you do, and you're here because you like this kind of thing. So share it to them and let them see it. And as always, we just hope you had a blast while you were here. Good night.